Sitting out there is my old Williams Forsaire, getting snowed on. I don't know if you can see it from here, but yeah, look at that. Ew. So, I started having some serious reliability issues with this old furnace. It was beginning to have issues keeping the pilot lit, and as it turns out, even replacing the thermocouple didn't help at all. It would work sporadically. Sometimes it would stay on, sometimes it wouldn't. I noticed on extremely cold nights, it would go out religiously. I'd relight it, it would stay lit for a couple minutes, or sometimes it would run for a full cycle, sometimes 2 cycles. Clearly something was wrong. So what I believe is really the problem with this old furnace is that the pilot orifice is clogged, partially, but it also has issues with the heat exchanger. It may have a crack, which is causing air to move freely between the heat exchanger and the internal ambient air of the house, which is causing cold air to flow near the thermocouple, causing it to shut off. Alternatively, it could have a bad gas valve. I don't know, it doesn't matter. Because when I started pulling it apart, I found that the furnace was just beyond its expected lifespan by 20 years. At least by 10 years. I tried to focus in on the vent pipe. There we go. You can clearly see that the vent pipe has a lot of rust on the inner pipe, and it's actually rusting through in some areas. I actually had to use a screwdriver to bend the pipe inwards as you see it, so it looks more like a flower. I had to bend it with a screwdriver and a hammer to get the old vent off, the vent cap. And that's what I noticed, that there was a lot of rust. So it wouldn't take more than a few months, a few years, like 2 or 3 years maybe, before the rust got bad enough to where the intake and exhaust were intermixing. And then the heat on the intake side would be rising enough to probably cause a house fire, or at least a leak, which could lead to carbon monoxide poisoning. So I think by replacing the furnace, I would have made the right decision. And that's exactly what I did. And I did it myself, and here it is. This is my brand new Williams Forsaire. This is it's exactly the same furnace. I mean, in almost every way, shape, and form. Same blower, same cabinet, it's a different color, it's white, but all the electronics at this end of the unit are all the same. It has a junction box up here. It's all the same. Everything is the same. Same heat exchanger, same burner pan, same combustion chamber. But this is a slightly upgraded version. This is a electronic ignition version. It is a bit more expensive than the direct replacement. See, they still make the old standing pilot furnaces. They're very inexpensive. I think it cost about $1,000. And this one cost $1,200 plus shipping. I bought mine from a plumbing supply house that does plumbing and heating, and they were able to give me a pretty good price on it, and that's pretty much all there is to it. So this furnace, unlike my old one, as you can clearly see, that it has a pilot or a flame inspection window, but I can see through this window that there's no flame, because, like I said, it has an electronic ignition module, which is the bomb. It's so cool. So when there's a demand for heat, it opens up the pilot gas valve. It then fires a rapid succession of sparks, which lights the pilot. Once the pilot flame is sensed, through an ion sensor. It opens up the main valve, and the boiler lights. Runs for a cycle, and the whole shebang shuts off. It's the coolest thing ever. So the only real difference down in this area is a different, more modern gas valve. This is a Honeywell valve, and it's got the electronic control module down here. I also noticed a few other improvements, like for example, there's insulation on the side of the cabinet to help prevent the hot air from being blown down here where it doesn't need to be. It's pretty straightforward. This is a reliable unit. I don't know if it's any more or less reliable than a Rinnai. The cost is about the same as the Rinnai. The reason I went with another Williams is because it's, number one, it's American made. And the company, so one of the representatives from Williams actually commented on one of my videos, and I thought that was cool. But they're an American company. They're made in the U.S. The old one lasted 30 years, trouble-free, or at least 29 years. And installation is a lot easier when you're buying the exact same unit, because I didn't have to change any of my trim boards. I didn't have to paint the wall. I didn't have to patch the carpet to fit a different footprint or cut the carpet out. If I had to put a Rinnai in, I would have had to change all this around. I'd have to cut the carpet back, put some wood down, cut a hole in the wall. I don't want to do that. But this thing bolted right in to the footprint of its predecessor. No problem, no questions. Hooking up the gas is easy as hell if you do it sensibly and you're smart about it. A lot of people are freaked out about hooking up gas lines, but people have been replacing their own stoves and water heaters and other gas appliances for years without any issues. This is no different. I had to use a hard copper line, or soft copper coil. This is 3/8 copper, and what I did is I basically duplicated what the original installer did, with one exception. When they installed the gas valve on the inside of the house, they put it in the very back where you can't even get to it. I put mine right here in the front where it's easily accessible. It runs off the main gas valve using an iron or steel coupler, and it goes down to an elbow here where it mates using a flared fitting to the gas line. The gas line has a single turn coil to give it some stress relief, and that coil then shoots outside and it connects to the main gas pipe, which is an iron pipe or steel pipe. I think it's just steel, but anyway. And that's all threaded on using flared fittings. I learned how to flare copper when I was about, I think I was 15. Actually, I was actually flaring steel brake lines. I had to replace the brake lines in my car, every single one. So I learned at a very young age how to properly flare pipe using a single flare. And I just applied that information and did my own gas lines. It's not rocket science. It doesn't leak. I use the proper leak testing equipment, which is it's really just a bottle of soapy water with a sponge, and you wrap it around or soak the fittings with this liquid, which contains it's like dish soap in a way, but it doesn't freeze. So I could do this outside on the outside connection, and it was below freezing. Well, it was 0 degrees when I did the outside connection. And what it does is if there's any leaks present, it'll bubble up, and you'll see those bubbles start to repetitively grow. There are no leaks. This has been running since last night. I had it fired up at around 7 o'clock last night, and it's been running fine ever since. No issues. So I have no fear of doing my own gas lines because it's not really that hard. I mean, you just have to... And the other thing is, having people who work in the HVAC and plumbing businesses and getting information from them on how they do it is also very helpful. But I have to say, I don't recommend anyone do this on their own, only because, if you screw it up, you can cause a lot of property damage, death, including death. So do it right. You can hire somebody to hook this up, or you can do it yourself. I did it myself because I'm confident in my abilities. I've been doing a lot of plumbing work over the years, just, for my own personal and my parents. When my dad has to do some kind of a plumbing project, he'll do it himself. You gotta understand that my father is the kind of guy who would never hire anyone to do anything. If he doesn't know how to do it, he'll learn, and then he'll do it himself. He's one of those, and I'm kind of the same way myself. But there you go. That's all hooked up. Now let's go ahead and fire it up. I'm going to bring the temperature up a little bit. So a little backstory. If I can get the sparker on camera. There it goes. So, anyway, before I get into my next tirade, the furnace that I needed was a different model. It was a 400 733, I believe it was a 331. And that was this furnace, 40,000 BTU direct vent counterflow, with the propane burner installed, or propane orifices installed. The supplier that ordered this for me couldn't get one in time. They said it would take about a week or two longer to get it. So they sold me the LP gas or the natural gas version and the conversion kit, and that's what I did. So I had to pull this whole burner apart and install the propane orifice, control valve spring, and pilot orifice, which was easy to do. It took me all of 10 minutes to get that done. And it's working pretty well. So, where was I going with this? The old furnace died about a week and a half ago when I was suffering the flu. And it just, the timing couldn't have been perfect. Couldn't have been better. Here I was, home from work with the flu. And every 5 minutes I had to manually relight my furnace to keep the place from freezing. It really pissed me off. So I ended up buying myself an electric heater, which I'm going to upload in another video. I bought one of those cheap Chinese, what do they call those, infrared heaters. And it actually did pretty well. It kept the house comfortably at 65. It was better than nothing. It did the job, and when I get my next light bill, I'm going to cry. Because I ran that sucker for a good week and a half. And boy, it was the coldest winter. This has been the coldest winter I think we've ever had since I've lived here. It has been below 20 degrees almost religiously every night for the past month. In fact, at night, it's usually averaging around 0 Fahrenheit, which sucks, but that's just what we have to deal with. So anyway, I'm going to put this door back on, and so the unit runs pretty well. Heats up quickly. Doesn't need to cycle very long. I mean, it's a very efficiently burning unit. So in terms of efficiency, there goes the blower. Now, unlike my old blower, this one comes on full speed instantly. The other one, I think the motor was bad, and because it had seized up at some point before I moved in, and the motor was actually, it was going bad. I think it had might have had like a few shorted coils, but it would come on slowly, and then it would slowly, gradually pick up speed. It wasn't a very healthy motor, I'll tell you that much. So anyway, so where was I? Yes. I was heating with an electric heater for a good week and a half, and electric heat, that's electric heat is kind of a paradox, because it is the most efficient form of heat you can get. It is 100% efficient. And, that's what I was talking about, efficiency. Well, we'll get into that for a second. 100% efficiency from electric heat. Unfortunately, it is the most expensive form of heat you can get. I think my sister paid around $400 last month to heat her small little apartment. Yeah, crazy. $400 to heat her apartment electrically. In comparison, my average light bill is around $90 because I have electric hot water. So, there's that. But anyway, the efficiency rating on this furnace is around 76% AFUE. Now, a Rinnai furnace, which is a Japanese-made, they're very low profile. They're designed to look good, and they're generally reliable and they're very well regarded. But those things have an efficiency rating. The size that I was looking at getting was around, I think it was 80%, 80 to 83%. So I kind of gave up a little bit of efficiency to stick with a Williams, but I think it was worth it. It's an old design, it's a proven design, and if it gives me another 15 years, I'll be happy. And furthermore, this house is so well insulated that, the heat doesn't really run that much. I mean, it pretty much stabilizes without issue, With the new slider that I put in, which was a godsend, let me tell you, I've been able to maintain warmth in this place pretty well in comparison to last year. My old slider had an air leak between the two doors, and one of the doors, I believe, had a faulty thermopane seal, so it wasn't really thermopane anymore. It was just two cold plates of glass. But it stays pretty warm here, regardless of all that, and I can't really complain. So thanks for watching. This is my first ever furnace install, and probably won't be my last. And I'm hoping that at least this thing will last as long as I hold the mortgage on this house. So I'm sure it will.